There's some now in the case of Blood In, Blood Out. Who knew the Rodney King thing was going to happen? Who knew it was going to create all these race? LA was going to burn to the ground and so forth and so on.
That shit was wild.
You know,
there's a story that there was a shooting at a Vegas screening, and that's when they backed off of it.
So that's what I was
saying. Come on,
because when it came out, I was a kid, right? I was in high school, I believe, or something like that, either 8th grade or 9th grade. But
did you see it as Bound by Honor in the theater?
I believe that we rented it from Blockbuster.
Okay, so it was already on.
Yeah.
Because remember, it don't come out on video. Back in those days, it wouldn't come out in video till 8 months. Mm-hmm. If even that, but sometimes it's even longer than that.
So did it roll out in theaters at first?
As Bound by Honor.
Okay.
But it made nothing at the box office.
Because they didn't push it like that.
They didn't push Bound by Honor. Nobody knew of it. Yeah, people were going like, oh, when is Blood In, Blood Out coming? When is Blood In, Blood Out? And then some movie called Bound by Honor opened up, and everybody's, yeah, but what about Blood In, Blood Out?
Yeah. So it was a deliberate move, bro.
Why do you guys think that something like America, because there's a big debate, and I have this debate a lot, especially with my friends that are movie buffs. American Me or Blood In, Blood Out. And I pick a Blood In, Blood Out all day, right? But why was American Me, and why is American Me still available, right? Like, what do you think it is with that? Because it's kind of, and we'll get into it, because I believe it's a very similar story. I believe that it's based on the same guy. I want to kind of ask what you guys think about this. Cause,
it is based on the same
story. On Peg Leg, right?
If you look at Floyd Muttruck's, is credited with the first screenplay, right? Jimmy Baca took that and created the Vatos Locos and, authenticated the prison stuff. So Floyd then is also executive producer on American Me. So he basically was able to take the route and make 2 different movies. I think American Me is a good film, dude. It's one of my favorite films of Eddie's because he included all of the Chicano actors that I knew at that time that were not working. So I love the fact that there was 2 Latino films being produced. We all got to work. Now, what started the whole this and that? I think that was all just publicity, between the production companies to try to get mine is better or it's competitive. So say you have 2 science fiction movies. Well, hello, the one wants to get to the theater first. So I think that then became the driver for that. But when you look at the 2 films, they're night and day, dude. They're apples and oranges.
They're totally different, and they hit different for different reasons. American Me is good for a certain reason. Blood In, Blood Out's good for a certain reason. But we always felt like it's the same. We always felt like it was the same story. As kids, we're like, man, it's so similar. You got like a white guy that's like a Latino white guy, and that ends up being like the shot caller, ends up having like the boss kind of knocked off, right? Yeah. Like, and takes power and takes position, right? And it's almost like the same story. It has its own character, its own personality. It was shot totally.
It is basically the same story.
That's probably because Floyd is on both.
Yeah,
that's because Floyd is on both.
Yeah,
But Floyd once that first version came out. And Jimmy Santiago took over it. That's when we got it, and that was Chicano Shakespeare, and I think that was probably a process they had to do over there, dude. They had to
What came out first?
American Me, and I think the thing with American Me is that this is my version of it. Taylor is a tremendous perfectionist, So this is when we first started shooting the film and they gave out the screenplay, to us, I remember looking at it and it was like this thick. It was like the phone book. And I'm like, what the hell? This is like, because, an average film screenplay is like 110, say, on average, between 110 and 120. This thing was like 300 pages long. I was like, well, he's not going to really do this. Clearly, there are going to be cuts and stuff like that. So everybody was expecting that. No, Mr. Hackford went ahead and he shot that entire Biblia, And then when he presented his first cut to the studio, it was 4 hours and 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
Where is that cut at?
The Holy Grail. Now you're talking about the Holy Grail. So anyway, then that got into a bounce back and forth with the studio because the studio said, no, 2 hours. And Taylor said, minimum 3. 2 hours, 3. So then that started a process that lasted over a year of cutting a 3-hour version and testing it. and then and then cutting a 2-hour version and testing it, and back and forth and back and forth. And it was very funny because when you try to cut 4 hours and 45 minutes down to 2 hours, you're going to have to lose a hell of a...
I couldn't do it.
Well, no, because you're going to lose a hell of a lot of information.
Yeah.
So what they started to do was bring us all back in again to do ADR, to revoice certain things. Well, we had to revoice a whole lot of it anyway, the stuff that was shot in the prison, because it was too loud and stuff like that. Pretty much that entire first dining hall scene had to be revoiced. Cinderella, yes. Yeah, because the audio, that's because they were superior talented actors were.
Hey, that makes sense because them lines are hella crispy.
It had to be revoiced. Plus, remember, we had to dub the whole movie into Spanish. Those of us who could did our own Spanish dubbing. Everybody couldn't, but whatever. But anyway, so they're doing a 3-hour version, 2-hour version, 3-hour, 2-hour version, and in order to get all the information necessary for the story to make sense, they started doing crazy stuff, like bringing us in to voice pieces of dialogue. Literally, they hunted and pecked for a scene like, here's the back of his head. So I remember going in to do ADR, and they would go, okay, here's a new line we've written for you. Now, look, we're going to run it down for you. Okay, you see it here? You see where it's the back of your head? That's where you say this.
You guys get a chance to see the 4.5?
No. Holy Grail. You're talking Holy Grail. So anyway, but this process went on back and forth for like pretty much a year. So that a lot of us started calling the movie Year In, Year Out. Because it's like, when does this end? And in that intervening year, American Me finished. They did their post, they did their publicity, they did whatever, and then they opened the movie. And so, it was out, and they got their reviews and everything. Tons of time before the whole Rodney King thing, all of that shit happened. American Me had already opened, it had its run, whatever. We're still waiting on when are we going to release this movie and what is it going to be called, And then that's why... Because somewhere in that process, they had figured out, because it was going to be 2 movies. We signed contracts for 2 movies.
Well, that's why Taylor had the long version, right?
I know. And that
he was trying to convey. He told me, I said, hey, there's a rumor that there's a 5-hour version. Can you once and for all tell me what that's all about?
Yeah.
He goes, I showed it to Disney. He goes, I was trying to convince them I had enough for 2.
Well, yeah.
I had it already.
Yeah.
He said I have it.
No, but there weren't 2 scripts.
He was going to
No. There was literally a whole other script, because I remember having a talk with Jimmy Baca, because he told me, you know what, in part 2 is where I'm really going to go deep into your relationship with Miklo. But
they hadn't written any of that.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, because when you watch,
look, I've already shot 2 movies. That's what he was trying to do.
But have you ever asked yourself?
He didn't say I got to do another one. He was like, look, I got it. Let me finish it. At that point, they went, bro, we're not going to let you put out 1.
Yeah,
he went, what?
They'd already given up on it.
We're sending it to VHS.
Yeah.
And he went, I'm Taylor. I can imagine that.
Yeah.
I'm a Academy Award winning Taylor Hackford. And they went, and so that's when he got them to basically say, look, if you can change the title, because we ain't putting Blood and Blood in, Blood Out on it anymore. So you better
fucking sabotage.
And that's when they started having to tool it all down.
Yeah,
but that's not the original ending.
The other.
No, I know that, because I was getting to that, because you shot that last scene a year later. Yeah. You had no hair because you were doing Wojciech in New York. I remember that. They flew you in.
Yeah, I had that.
And you had no hair.
The original ending. So because they wanted to do a 2-parter, the original ending was so open-ended. The original ending was me with the other 2 vatos, Chewy and Frankie. Same scene. Look at this mural. They didn't mark it up. We're from East Los. We're chased by hounds. But none of the emotional content. No closure. So the biggest comment at the previews were, so what's up? Is there another one? What happened to Miklo? And so I think all of that was just, it's not going to be 2 movies. it's not going to be 2 movies. So I can't imagine that here of Taylor.
God willing,
trying to chop it down.
There will be. I mean,
he could deconstruct it, right?
Well, listen, just speaking as Popeye, who I wasn't done acting, but I mean, when you think about the character of Popeye, the last time you see him is when he makes that phone call.
Oh yeah, you like
and he does that, and he hangs up the phone and he walks off the screen. ¿Y qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó con Popeye?
No closure.
So,
because there was gonna be more Popeye.
Los vatos, they grew up. Him and his brother Peter, who wrote La Misión, they grew up with the first Bay Area car clubs. So they know all these vatos. They were like their heroes. So he could knock them off. So when he walked in and he started throwing down, I said, okay, Ben's the one. So after that, it took us a while longer to find Damien because they were trying to get a star in that position. So they were bringing in a lot of actors, white actors that had names, but none of them could.
They couldn't hit it.
They couldn't hang, bro.
How did Miklo hit it, dog? He just had this.
His dad he really is half Chicano. His dad's from Robstown. Yeah. From Robstown, Texas.
Shit, Miklo was a real one, for real.
Miklo's a real deal.
He's the real. Yeah, he's the real.
Yeah, so when Damien came in, we threw him around and Chapa came through. So at that point, Taylor went, look, I'm going to go with an unknown, and that was a journey. His growth as an actor was on that film, but I think that's why you get the performance from all of us that you get. I think everybody at that point, I can tell you one thing, nobody in that cast, and you're talking about how big a cast it is, like you said, they were all before they were going to be stars. Raymond Cruz, Carlos, Victor, Benjamin, before Law and Order. Billy Bob Thornton.
Fucking insane.
So they were throwing down, bro. They said, we love this movie. We're going to do our best. So that's why that movie sings. Yeah. I can't imagine the footage that was left on the floor, bro.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, where's the Holy Grail at?
But see, getting back to your, how do I see the 5-hour minute? People ask me constantly, is it going to be a part 2? Is it going to be a part 2? And I always go, look, I've given up on the part 2 thing. My stance on the whole thing is that I wish they could gather up all of that footage of the original shoot and reconstruct it, put that thing back together again, because I'm convinced there could be 6 hours in there. So you put all that together, chop it in 2, and then you put it on HBO or whatever. Or chop it into 3 pieces, because, for ejemplo, we were talking about her earlier. Roxanne Biggs. Fabulous actress. Her entire role was cut out of the movie.
You ever watch on the DVD in the back, there's this beautiful woman in an embrace with Paco? With Benjamin Bratt. It's right there in the back of the DVD.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. There's a whole love story. There had to be, because in a Hollywood movie you got to have the love story.
And that's what they decided to cut out.
And it was Ben and Roxanne. They met because her dad was the DA or something.
Yeah, he was a police chief.
And she was a strong Latina woman.
Well, she was organizing.
She was a lawyer or something.
Yeah, she was a
a whole other plot.
It's a beautiful Chicana.
So gigantic story, and it's on the cutting room floor.
All right, if this footage still exists, right? Would it be the director or would it be the studio like Both. Disney that has it?
The studio has it.
So somewhere Disney has a vault of old footage somewhere, and that it's up to us as to go figure out how to go find it. Pretty much.
Get all that footage. And rent an editing suite and come get Taylor and put Taylor in there and say, dude,
right here,
put it all together.
Put it all together.
They did that with Godfather, right? So what they did with Godfather is they deconstructed all the flashbacks and they put it chronologically.
So I said,
well, why can't you do that with... It'd be easier.
I would love to see Roxanne get her props after all these years.
Because here's the thing we know about studios, right?
Come on.
Studios are like, bro, if they still got old vocals for artists that are deceased, and you don't think that a company like Disney has this put away somewhere, they just don't work. They just probably don't care about it because of what happened back then. So my point being is they didn't get rid of it. It's sitting somewhere.
Has to be.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
100%. It's their job because they own it to be sitting somewhere.